views expressed on the following program are not necessarily those of WPSL. However, we do encourage you to like and share them on Facebook, YouTube, and other social media, because it's time for the African American Scene, presented by Howard Insurance of Port St. Lucie and hosted by the one and only Rudy Howard.
Good evening, good evening, good evening. Always glad to be with you here on a Wednesday night. You know, as funny as it is, I've been doing this all these years, and I still look forward to getting with you on Wednesday night and fighting and debating with you and providing you information. I still enjoy it. I still enjoy it. But anyway, I hope everybody is well. You know, in the past year, there was an incident that caused a great deal of friction between two of my conservative friends, Charlie and Pete. And it was about Kavanaugh's appointment to the Supreme Court. My argument with them was, we don't know what the facts are. And their argument to me was that it was a smear campaign. This lady just came out of nowhere and just tried to trash this man's reputation, and there was no basis of fact. Well, and my argument was very simple. I didn't say whether he did do it. I didn't say whether he didn't do it. What I said was, I don't think there was a proper investigation. Well, sometime the old guy is right. Senator Whitehouse from Rhode Island has sent a letter to the DOJ saying that the FBI's Kavanaugh investigation may have been fake. They did not follow the leads and the information that was being provided. In fact, they set up a tip line for people to call, and the people were calling the tip line, and they were trashing the information that it is, let me stand corrected here. It is alleged they were trashing the information that was coming over the tip line and not providing any investigation into the sources that were coming forward. It is also alleged by Senator Whitehouse that the investigation of Kavanaugh did not follow standard FBI protocol. Now, I'm going to say the same thing I said to my two former buddies that I said back then. I don't know whether he did it, and I don't know if he's guilty or not. And I'm going to say the same thing now that I said back then. There needs to be a proper investigation. Evidently, there wasn't a proper investigation. And that woman's life was trashed. Her world was turned upside down. And as mad as you were at him for the fact that she came forward, she too was punished for stepping forward to tell her truth. Now, if her truth was not true, then it should be properly investigated and the absolute information should be brought forward. But I would just tell you, it is interesting that Senator Whitehouse clearly in a letter says there was some improper techniques and procedures with respects to Kavanaugh. Let me make this very clear. He did not say Kavanaugh was guilty of anything. What he said was there was improper investigation of what happened, which is the same argument that I made to my two former friends, that there was an improper investigation. And they didn't want to hear it. And so that has caused us to have a difficult time communicating anymore. But I don't care. But this clearly vindicates me for what I was saying, which was let the truth come out. And I say the same thing about Cuomo. I don't live in New York anymore, but when I did, I thought his dad was a terrific governor and liked him very much. I don't know as much about Andrew Cuomo, but I've talked to some of my New York friends. I still have friends there, and there's kind of mixed reviews on him. Some like him, some don't, but I'm going to say the same thing for him that I said about Kavanaugh. Let the truth come out. And if he's guilty, I don't care if he's a Democrat or a Republican. If he's guilty, then he needs to step down from being governor of New York. I am balanced and fair. If he's guilty, he should step down. Let the investigation do what it does. Now, I can tell you this. I don't know her personally. I know some people that know her fairly well. Matter of fact, one of the guys I went to high school with, he went to college with her at Howard. And from everything that I have been able to gather, she is not somebody to trifle with, and she will get to the truth. The lady someday could be governor of New York, I have no doubt. But this lady is not to be trifled with, very highly respected, and I expect that whatever she does, she will come up with the truth about what's going on with Cuomo. So that's what I have to say about those things. But I had to get this information to you about Kavanaugh because it was so contentious between myself, Peter, and Charles that, I mean, it really was heated. And it just, all I was saying the whole time was let the information come out. And the information never came out. Well, okay, anyway. Let's move on. And I got some topics for tonight. We can look at Biden's approval rating, and we can look at it against Trump's approval rating. And then I would like just to hear from you. Why do you think Biden's approval rating is so high, and over 4 years, Trump was never able to crack 50%? He just couldn't crack 50% over 4 years. I think that's very, very interesting that he wasn't able to crack 50%. The other thing I want to talk to you about is the voting changes that they're trying to implement in many of the states across the country that amount to voting suppression. Many of the things they're trying to do are just absolutely, look, the one thing was so bad in Georgia, the lieutenant governor had to say that he couldn't go along with what they were trying to do, one of which is you would not be able, now I want you to hear this, and tell me how this has anything to do with voting security. They are passing a law that says you cannot give somebody a cold drink if they're standing in line to vote. How ridiculous, how absurd is that? And we got Jay on line one. Yes, sir.
Okay, good afternoon, Rudy.
Afternoon.
Sticking on, I'm going to stick with your call, what you're talking about. When you were talking about Kavanaugh and, how he got away and they rushed that through that, for him to be on the Supreme Court, it was a rush job.
Yes.
And, they should be ashamed of themselves the way they did that and the way they treated that lady.
Yes.
They deserve that. That's why I have a daughter. And ever since when she was young, I constantly was there watching everything that was going on. And even when she was getting married, and I knew the young man, and, he was always by the house, and he was very, polite and everything. And but I made I just made a statement, and I just wanted to make sure she was clear about wanting to get married, and was he trying to improve his status? You going to college? Is he trying to improve his educational status? I just broke it down like a father should with a daughter.
Mm-hmm.
And so she appreciate that right to the day. I can see her today, and that she's got I got a grandson and everything, and she's living her life, and they're very happy. And she said, Dad, that was one of the she said, I really appreciate and I respect everything you did my whole life. And she said that was something that I needed. I needed that confidence. I needed to know that I was doing the right thing. And you gave me that, that courage. And in other words, and the statements that you made, and was I sure? And everything was, everything worked out perfect. I said, well, that's what life is all about, But anyway, to get back with what was happening, we got Nunes. We got a congressman, Nunes. We got Ron Johnson, and we got Rudy Giuliani, who was cooperating with Putin, an ex-KGB person with Russia. The Russian premier was an ex-spy.
Yes.
And the intelligence community just came out with a statement that Russia was colluding and giving out disinformation in the last election with Trump.
Absolutely
right. In other words, he was working with Trump, and these people are still in Congress making decisions. Nobody's they're not taking them out. They're not being prosecuted for working cohorting with the enemy. And every time I think about them, and I think about what's going on with them, I think about the Rosenbergs in 1952 who were executed for giving Russia information. Yeah. They were executed within a month. The two couple living in New York, two Jewish couple, maybe that's why they were executed, because they were Jewish back in the 1950s. But that still don't take these guys are not even, they're still carrying on in Congress, running their mouth and creating havoc. And we're paying them $175 a year for it. Taxpayers.
$175.
But a lot of people out there don't even look at it that way.
$175,000 a year.
That's how much they make, right?
Yes, correct.
Yeah, and we're paying their salary for cooperating and coordinating with the Russians. Actually, that's to me that should be treason. Even though we're not at war, we're not Cold War, nothing like that. But it's still not right, and it should be. They should lose their job. There shouldn't be It should be a clause when these people are getting law. They can't just have a job for life just because the people in their area vote for them. But if they commit a crime or if they break the law, they have to pay, just like every other human being in this country pays for breaking the law.
I agree.
It's kind of sad, Rudy, how things are going and how they're just getting away with it and getting on cable and on TV, running their mouth and talking about, well, there was nothing wrong with what happened on January the 6th. They were good people. They didn't deserve, they were just, patriots. Yeah, they were trying to overthrow the government. And they killed a police officer in the process. They murdered him.
Yes.
And it just goes on. I can't understand how they're getting away with that, Rudy. I just can't figure it out.
I don't think they are. I think we got a new sheriff in town. Jay, I got another caller, though. Thank you, my friend.
Okay.
And we got Steve on line 3. Yes, Steve.
Hey, Rudy.
Yes,
How's
sir.
it going?
Okay.
Everybody healthy?
Yep. How about you?
Finally got time on real-time radio to get back with you.
Okay.
Hey, just a thought on Kavanaugh.
Okay.
All the information in the hearings that went through, there was more in that trial than anything else. But the facts are that, yes, she was sincere in her accusations, but her credibility suffered.
Steve,
she couldn't remember
we don't know
the house.
We don't know the facts.
Remember?
We don't know the facts. That's the whole point.
How she got things that she couldn't remember.
Why can't you accept the very simple concept that we did not get all the facts? Why is that so hard for you to accept? You have to defend him because he's conservative. You have to defend him. I mean, it's a very simple thing. We didn't get all the facts.
Here's the credibility. She had a friend that couldn't remember. So here you have, if the United States court system, and that was not a court system, that was a hearing, which the court system, first, Kavanaugh is considered innocent until proven guilty, the accusations that were made. But that's neither here nor there. The facts of the case, by all the evidence, prove that it was not a credible case.
We don't have all the evidence. Stop saying that, because we don't have all the evidence.
Okay, what evidence are you going to use? Are you going to bring in?
I'm just telling you what the article said. Look, don't believe me. I don't want you to believe me that I'm coming up with some liberal point of view. I want you to just go do the research. The research says all the information that was available was not secured. The investigation into his background was improper and incomplete. That's what it is said. Not what Rudy. That's not some liberal saying that. That's just saying the facts. The FBI did not follow procedure in the investigation of Kavanaugh. That's it.
Okay, you set up your premise as to justify your decision, which you said in the beginning, and I actually will listen to you many times through that Kavanaugh hearing where you were siding against Kavanaugh.
I did not. I did not. I said, I'm going to repeat what I said. I started this conversation off with what I said, and I've always said the same thing, that we never got all the information, and we should have been able to get all the information, and we never did. That was my point.
You said that this is your exact statement, maybe not word for word, but in meaning. She is a credible witness. That was not the case. She was sincere. She did not have the evidence to back her story. She is an accuser. This guy that's coming up, he is making accusations too. And why don't you take a moment and explain what exculpatory evidence is to your audience, what that really is?
Of course I can explain that. Why do you try to do that? You try to get me to explain things that are fairly obvious, like I don't understand what exculpatory evidence is. Do you understand what prima facie evidence is? Do you know what prima facie is?
I do.
Oh, okay.
Let me explain it then. I will explain it. Exculpatory evidence is evidence that takes away from the presumption of guilt and puts everything on innocent as far as a person's situation in a case, or a entity, or a corporation that is under litigation. So therefore, exculpatory evidence is evidence that clears the accused. Lawyers do this all the time. So my question going along with this is, if there is exculpatory evidence or evidence that cannot be proven, and or if the process by which judicial investigation wasn't completely done, does that mean that the truth isn't out there?
Boy, you just walked yourself right into that. Keep talking. Okay. Keep talking, and you're going to get to the truth, because you're right dancing on top of the truth right now. So keep talking and talk yourself into the truth. Go ahead.
Now, the point being then, if that's the case, then we've got to go to the evidence, not just in the court, because this was not a court hearing. We have to go to the evidence, it's exculpatory or evidence of a bunch of different topics. And if you, I was watching those music awards last night.
Don't change the subject. Don't change the subject. First of all, you don't have the correct definition of exculpatory evidence. But keep going. It's all right. I just want you to keep going with what you're talking about.
Okay, exculpatory evidence.
I don't want to go back there because you don't have the right definition, but that's okay. Keep talking about the point that you're trying to make, because the point you're making my point. You just don't realize yourself that you're making my point. Go ahead. Keep going.
Rudy, exculpatory evidence is evidence that it's withheld. Okay, if we take that. Now, do you understand? If I apply your the same principles to, let's say, let's use slavery. Let's say, how many slaves came to the United States of America? Well, the estimates around, like, North America has received 350,000 people. 350,000 people. Yes. Okay. And then we have, wait a minute. We have the six. So we have 19 project that's trying to assume that the United States, here we go again, and we putting on the double radio thing on. Okay, I understand what you're doing. And what you're doing to my phone call. So
what am I doing to your phone call?
I'm sorry you're doing this.
What am I doing to your phone call?
You're doubling my phone call, so I hear a echo of my voice. So my thoughts.
No, everybody's hearing your voice on the recording for YouTube. That's probably what you're hearing.
I'm getting a double reverb on the phone.
Keep talking, or hang up, one or the other.
Okay. I'm glad you turned it off. No, you
didn't touch nothing.
Okay, I can't really talk on the phone because I'm getting a reverb, which is not, you can't really talk into a phone like that. But my point being is this. If we say that only partial truth is truth, and I'll agree with you, that Kavanaugh should have had a representation, and he did. And the bulk of the case was around her credibility and her feelings that this was a person, but she did not have credible evidence. What else do we need? He's proven innocent till proven guilty. If we do the same thing with
the whole point, you're missing the whole point. The whole point is very simple. You're making something complicated that's very simple. All that I've said, and I'm going to continue to say, and you are trying to escape from, is if there was evidence that was available, which seems to be the case, that was not secured and was not pursued, if there was evidence that was available which was not pursued and was not secured, then we had an incomplete investigation. And if there was an incomplete investigation, we don't know whether he's innocent or guilty. That's the whole point. That's the point. It's no more complicated. It is not complicated at all. You make it complicated because you want your side to win. If you want to be objective and open-minded, it's very simple. You either have all the information or you don't. That's it.
Justice doesn't work on accusations, and that's why the government rules for radicals is the perfect example. Rules for radicals says, paraphrase, that accusations are your most effective weapon, because when you make accusations, you put the people on defense. They have to defend. You take away from their ability to move forward with their arguments. And this is a tactic that the left, that's why when you hear the term community organizers, well, there's Saul Alinsky's principles. You make accusations to gain power. And the longer you make accusations, you make a person defend their positions. And you can do this forever.
What are you talking
I can
about?
say, Rudy,
He's subjecting you to subjugation.
I mean, he is just talking.
Yeah, he's
you're
controlling
talking,
the conversation and trying to
he's just
blow smoke
talking in
the
a
face.
circle, and he's off the subject. Listen,
Wasting your
Steve,
time.
Steve, you either get on the subject or hang up because you're just not even making sense right now.
the subject of Kavanaugh is there was a extensive hearing. There was no credibility.
How do you know? Do you know that? Have you seen the FBI report? Have you seen the FBI report? There was a report that was done about the investigation that Senator Whitehouse had an opportunity to see, which raised questions about how the investigation was conducted. Have you seen that? Have you seen it? Have you seen the report? Have you seen the report? Yes or no?
I said no.
Okay.
I'm asking you, did you see the FBI report on Trump? Did you see the FBI report on all these things? No. And you saw what we went through. Because accusations are put out there just as happens all the time. Accusations are to be tried in the public arena, not the court system. And unfortunately, we've let our court system become played out more in the public arena than in the judicial system, where you are innocent proven guilty.
I have no more. I have no more.
Accusations of guilt.
I have no more time for you because you're not.
Okay.
You're not speaking intelligently and you're not being thoughtful because you can't accept a very simple premise of whether or not to listen to something. But I got to let you go. I got another call. Yes, sir.
Hey, how are you doing, Rudy?
Okay.
I don't know who that gentleman was, but he talked himself right out of every argument he was trying to make. So
you got that right, Howard? He didn't even realize he was talking himself out of the argument.
No, he didn't. He had not a clue. I just wanted to broach a subject here, and I didn't know if you had a chance to look at it, but the H.R. 1 bill that they are passing or have passed, I was reading part of it in there someplace where I think it was number 9 or 10, where they were going to allow 16-year-olds to vote, and I just don't understand that. I don't think that's.
I don't understand that, but I would tell you I haven't seen that, but I would tell you that I wouldn't be in favor of that. I mean, I'm a Democrat, but I wouldn't be in favor of 16-year-olds voting.
Yeah, I don't even think that should be a party anything. 16-year-olds barely got their driver's license, and I just don't think that that's a good call at all. But it was, I think, number 9 or 10 in part of the bills in there. But I just want to get your opinion. I didn't know where this was coming from, but wow.
Well, if that's in there, and also between now and next week, I'll have to do some research because I can say with great confidence that if there is part of the H.R. 1 is to allow 16-year-olds to vote, I would not be in favor of that.
Yeah, there's some parts of it that are good, but some parts of them are just way out there. So,
well, Howard, here's what we got to do though, because what we're seeing now is just absolutely abysmal. I mean, we saw something this week I don't think that you've seen in the past. The lieutenant governor of Georgia, who's a Republican, said he could not go along with the voter suppression legislation that Georgia was trying to pass. Why? Why? I don't listen. I've been saying this. If you've listened to me, I've been saying this probably for all the 10 years that I've been doing this show. Conservatives can win minority votes. They can. It's possible. But you have to speak to them. You have to bring ideas and thoughts that cater to or appease some of their thinking about what's important to them. After all, policies and procedures that are developed by politicians are things that the people, their constituency, want. It's that
I
simple.
think it all comes down to the fact, and you've said it all along, is that first of all, people have to be able to talk about it,
Yes.
come to an understanding, and that then agree or disagree, and somewhere along the line they're going to come to an understanding, and somebody's going to say, yes, this is right or this is wrong.
Yes. Yes.
But we're all people in this country. We're first thing, and we're people in this country. Put parties aside, because parties don't really matter. The United States of America matters, and so do the people. That's just my opinion.
I'm with you on that, Howard. I'm with you.
Yeah.
Just like when you just said that HR 1 has 16-year-olds voting, I don't give a damn that was a Democratic bill. If 16-year-olds if 16-year-olds are allowed to vote, I'm against that.
Yeah, I just was. That's the only one that really shocked me. Just stood out and said, "Whoa, where
Okay.
did this come from?"
All right.
So, but just an FYI there.
Okay.
Want to get your opinion on it.
All right. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Okay.
Have a good night.
All right. Take
Bye.
care. Bye-bye. Even Howard saw that. He was going Steve was
I was thinking about a set of rules that we could recite at the beginning of each show of the things that you're not going to get away with under any circumstance on this show. And first and foremost, if you're going to call this show, you're going to respect the host, by golly. I'll see to that.
Yeah.
And now you trust yourself and you face the man himself on the phone. But you're not going to filibuster him and you're not going to belittle him. We know that you don't believe he should have a constitutional right of free speech. We understand that. We know how you are. Everybody who looks at the archives on YouTube of this show has heard you all along acting like this. And there's a day of reckoning when you're not going to be able to deny it. But we know what you are.
Do you know how many people have stopped me on the street and go, "How do you deal with that guy?" They know it. They know his name. Oh, yeah. They stop me in the street. They say, "How can you deal with that Steve guy?" I said,
and then he wraps it all up and tries to pretty it by putting a little sugar on the dog feces,
yes. Yeah.
by hiding behind religion to cover his butt on it all.
Yeah, absolutely.
Subjugation and things like that. And we understand how that works. And yeah, the Bible does promote slavery, and it did back in the Hebrew days. Ask the rabbi.
Yes.
But today, I think we've done a magnificent job with the civil rights movement.
Yeah.
Things have changed since the 60s. I was just a kid in the 60s, but man, that was a long time ago.
Yeah.
And there's still a lot of stuff that has not changed.
That's very true. Yeah. And you know what? Here's the thing. And Steve is only he's a example of the problem. But the real problem is that there's white folks out there that do not want to share power. They just don't. So rather than trying to win the hearts and minds of people, they're trying to cheat their way to a win, which is ridiculous because the premise of our country is, I've said this over and over and over and over again, it's like a broken record, the people with the best ideas win. That's the premise of what our democracy is supposed to be. When you come out and you talk to the constituents, if you have the best ideas that are attractive to the people that you're talking to, they're going to vote for you. If you don't have the best ideas, they're not going to vote for you. And if you're trying to manipulate the process because you don't think you can get the votes, what does that tell you about your ideas? Your ideas are being rejected by the majority of the people. So you need to go back to the barn, do some soul searching, and find some new ideas to present to the people. And you have a chance without cheating. You don't have to cheat. Come out with some ideas, some policies, and some programs. Now, if you want ideological purity, which seems to be the case for some I know for a fact don't want ideological purity, and some I know for a fact do not want black and brown people in leadership in the government. Those are just pure facts. But after we get past them, and I'm going to say this is the vast majority of my white and brothers and sisters, if you got the right ideas, they will step to you. If you even just look at the last election, you had a win by 7 million votes by Biden. That means there was a lot of people that didn't say anything, which is what I tell you all the time. I've been telling you that for my 10 years here. There's people in the middle that are not boisterous. They don't march. They don't make phone calls. They don't stand on street corners, but they don't like injustice. Those people will be triggered into action when they detect injustice. That's what the vote told you. They didn't like injustice. They didn't like his manner in which he was presenting himself to us, the people. And we told him, in essence, that that's not okay. Come on. Read the tea leaves. It's pretty obvious. So stop being mad, make some adjustments in your party, and win the right way, because you can. Okay, I'm off that train now. Steve got me all wound up, which he likes to do, I think.
Oh, he delights in it.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
he does. Yeah, he does. I came across, I want you guys, if you got Netflix, there's a program, thank God, I don't know if I told you, I've got a Friday night group of college friends, and we meet each Friday night at 7 o'clock, and we get together, and it usually lasts for about 2 hours. And we talk about all kinds of things, and we share information. I shared with them my book that I shared with you about the articles of black people from all the way back in the 1700s. And several of them have bought the book. But anyway, one of my friends told me that she was looking at this show called The 14th Amendment, which was narrated by Will Smith. No, it's Will, I guess it is, yeah, Will Smith. And in that show, and I've watched now 3 episodes, one of the episodes talked about the Chinese massacre of 1871. How many of you knew about that? I consider myself somewhat a student of history, and I knew nothing about that. Happened in L.A. They massacred Chinese people, and they lynched them. And at that time, L.A. was about 6,000 people. And the history books are pretty silent about it. Now, I will say, to my surprise, my nephew, who's from North Carolina, is also on my Facebook page, and I posted the article about it. And he wrote to me and said, yes, his teacher, he got AP history, and his teacher in AP history told him about that story. Well, I thought the timing is absolutely incredible that I read that story and we had happen what happened today. So the question is, as I was looking at the story, why did it happen? There was some concern, many of the Chinese were brought in to help build a railroad. I don't know how many of you knew that. I did know that. But there was a lot of Chinese immigrants brought in to build a railroad. Now, after the railroad was built and they had the gold rush, there was concern about the competition for jobs. So things were very tense. And they felt that the Chinese were in competition for jobs And as such, they had the Chinese Act of 1875, I think it is, or 72. They actually prohibited Chinese people from coming to the United States. You could not leave and you could not come back. And there were people who had been born in the United States who had gone to visit family in China that were not allowed to return. I thought to myself, you know, it is really tragic that our kids don't learn about this stuff, because we got our president talking about the Chinese virus and the Kung Fu virus, and which is fomenting hate among people, and it just does not make for a very healthy environment. And then I go out and I find this and I go, wow, we did that to the Chinese. We took, and they were lynched and they were shot and they were killed. But most importantly, and I know this is going to make some of you very angry, but I can't help myself. After reading about this, I said to myself, how do we have the right to tell other countries about their human rights violations? Do they think other countries can't read? Do they think other countries don't have access to some of the information that I have shared with you here on Wednesday nights about some of the things that have happened to black people? And now what has happened to Chinese people, and we know we put the Chinese in internment camps, and then we go and we tell other people about their behavior and their human rights violations. And we have people doing 20 years in prison for having a joint. I don't know. Now, I know there's going to be some of you that disagree with me, but I'm telling you, honest to God, that's the thought that came to my mind after I read this story. I just was like, really? Do we really have the moral authority to tell other people about their human rights violations?
Don't you need to take the beam out of your eye before you move the speck out of your brother's eye?
I know what you're saying, man.
Well, I know what nobody's believing, you know, because it seems to be quite all right. I'm trying to figure this out, Rudy. You see, some people feel that they're obligated to contend against everything that they've learned to hate their whole lives, and it's not easy to drop the hate. It's like like a cancer. You can't just shake it off.
Yeah.
You can't just shake it off. It's there for the long run.
Yeah.
And it's not good for you. The hatred will kill you just like the cancer will.
It will.
Yeah.
It will. And you know, some of it I am convinced. Some of it has to do with people who think, well, if we're not in power, they might do to us what we've done to them.
Oh.
You know what I mean? I don't think there's a lot of them, but I think there's some.
Wait a minute. Do you think that maybe some people might actually believe that the people of color want to now subjugate all the white people and turn everything back the way it was against the black folks and the brown folks back then, and make it like that for the white folks now? Is that you? You know, it kind of stinks. It has that smell to it, you know?
I think that, well, there's one guy I know that kind of admitted that to me some time back. I talked about that. And then I have another guy that admitted to me that he thinks allegations of racism are nothing but a power grab. That really hurt my feelings because I kind of like that guy, but I'm done with him now after he made that statement. He might be listening, and he knows I'm done with him because I haven't talked to him at all.
You know, I also know, though, if you say, I know a guy, one guy, and when you say that, like 10 guys, they all start thinking, oh, he's talking about me.
Right. Yeah, right.
Because they know who they are.
Yeah, but you know what? It's, listen, I don't know how I can make this any clearer than this. And I've said this before, another thing I said before. And I've said this over and over. I don't want anything from you. Most of the black people I know, they don't want anything. I don't want your money. I don't want we want the same things you want. The same things. We want to live in a nice neighborhood. We want our kids to go to a good school. We want our kids to get a good education. And we want our kids and our grandkids to be successful. That's it. And have equal opportunity. And our fight against racism is so that we have an equal chance at a piece of the American pie via the promise made to us in the Constitution. It's that simple. Not complicated. That's all we want. That's all we want. We're not trying to take anything from you. We're not trying to push you down. We're just trying to get the proper element that we're entitled to in this society. And I believe, how can you say we have not earned that? We have fought in every war. There's probably not, I would venture, less than half of the people, much less than only 25% of the people listening to this show right now can say that their forefathers fought in every war to preserve the freedom and the democracy of America. I'm saying less than 25%. But with African Americans, it's 100%. We fought in all those wars. We bled, we died to protect the American dream. So why would we not be entitled to that? That's all. That's all we want. We want our piece of the pie.
And they were there working with some of the great inventors of all time.
Absolutely. We proved that. And listen, I don't hold no hostility toward anybody, but just give us the fair chance to be successful. That's all. Not more than that. Just a fair chance to be successful without impediments. And an impediment can be as simple as not being able to live in a nice house in a nice neighborhood, because we know that part of the development of wealth is through property ownership. Richard Rothstein, in his book, The Color of Law, spells that out to T about how people of color have been deprived of wealth building by virtue of the fact they were limited where they were able to buy property. And in some cases where they had property that was of valuable, it was taken away. We found out, what I tell you a couple weeks ago, about the land over in West Palm, on Palm Beach Island. That was a black community at one time. And Flagler got all the black people off Palm Beach Island and turned it into the upscale place it is now. But there was black people on Palm Beach Island. And that's been a pretty consistent thing with us. So that's it. That's the beginning and the end of all the things that are important to us. And I would just tell you that I was going to talk about the key points of the rescue plan, but we'll talk about it next week, and if not next week, the week after. I think I'm going to have the people on from Solar Energy Fund. Good people. Doug Coward is the director of that, and I think he's going to have Henry Duhart, who's now employed by them, to come on and speak on behalf of the company. That should be good. They do a lot of really good things in the community that a lot of you don't know anything about. And I had them on here maybe about 2 years ago. So we're going to have them back on here again to talk about how you might be able to access the Solar Energy Loan Fund for some of the things that may be necessary for you in your home in St. Lucie County. I would also tell you that at this point, Biden's approval rating is 53.7, and his disapproval rating is 40.5. And I went and compared it, and Trump never broke 50% in the 4 years that he was president. And I wonder why. Can you ask yourself that? I wonder why he couldn't get above 50%. That's a good question that you need to ask yourself. I know if you're a Trump supporter, why you can't get above. He couldn't get above 50%. But in any event, I want you to go out and look that up. The Chinese massacre of 1871 that took place in L.A. I think that it is worthy of you to spend some time to read that. And try to look at the program that I told you about, Amend. It's called Amend, A-M-E-N-D. And it's being narrated by Will Smith, and he has some other stars that do some pieces in a documentary. And it is really enlightening about how the 14th Amendment was created and how the famous, Lord, I can see his face and I can't call his name right now, Frederick Douglass, helped to push forward the concept of the 14th Amendment. Pretty interesting stuff, and how the 14th Amendment over the years has been challenged. So please take some time. If you we got a lot of dead time and you don't have to look at some of the stupid shows on TV. Spend some time to watch Amend and get some education. And I would like to thank you so much for tuning in to the African American scene. God bless, be safe, and I will see you next Wednesday right here for the African American scene.
With archives on YouTube under WPSL TV, the African American scene is brought to you every Wednesday evening by Howard Insurance in Port St. Lucie and hosted by Rudy Howard. The African American scene, Wednesday, 6:05 till 7, right here. Greg Wyatt is in the Palm Beaches right now. We've got some IRSC basketball coming up very shortly right here, so stay tuned to WPSL Port St. Lucie, the talk of the Treasure Coast.